everyone, welcome back to Crochet and Crime, where I crochet and I tell true crime stories. Today we'll be talking about Chalino Sanchez. His story is not talked about enough, but he is a very popular Mexican singer, Latin singer, and his story is actually pretty depressing. And yeah, I would like to put out a quick disclaimer. This story does get kind of graphic, and it does go over abuse or sexual abuse, sexual assault, and it does get kind of graphic with crime scenes and stuff like that. So if you're not interested in any of that, I suggest you click away from this video. And yeah, with that, let's get into it. Chalino was born in Culiacan in Sinaloa. He was the youngest of 7 children, and he was put to work at a very young age. And his birth name is actually Rosalino Sanchez Felix, but he never went by his birth name as he thought it was too feminine, so he told everybody to just call him Chalino. His first crime began when Chalino was just 11 years old. It was 1975 when Chalino's only sister, Juana, went out to a party. There at that party was a group of men, and the main guy was nicknamed El Chapo Perez, and his friends and Perez were getting a bit too handsy with Juana, and they ended up sexually assaulting her, leaving her naked and embarrassed at her mom's front doorstep. And Chalino never forgot that moment of seeing his sister cry in front of her mom. And so 4 years later, Chalino got his revenge. Both Chalino and Perez were at a party celebrating the Mexican Revolution. Chalino saw Perez with 2 of his brothers, and Chalino then grabbed a gun from his pocket and shot Perez in the head. Perez's 2 brothers then shot at Chalino, causing a shootout to happen between the 3, and Chalino then sprinted out of the house and ran into the woods where he would be hiding for 2 weeks. Chalino then decided to go to the United States and start a fresh life. Chalino made it to Los Angeles, where he would stay with one of his tias. He then began working on farms to raise money, and then he went to Inglewood, where he would help his oldest brother Armando smuggle immigrants into the States from Tijuana. Chalino would continue helping his brother for a year before the business fell flat, with Armando being shot in his sleep in a Tijuana hotel. Shortly after his brother died, Chalino would be arrested for multiple previous crimes, and he would spend 8 months in prison. With him in prison was his cousin Ishmael, who knew how to play the guitar. The prisoners around them had many different stories, since most of them were from where Chalino was from, and they also had similar backstories. And so they would all just kind of like sit around and tell stories from their childhood or from where they were born and how they got there and like how they got in prison and stuff. And Chalino made songs out of their stories. And everybody loved his gift, and they would pay him in money or favors if they ever wanted a song from him. When he was released, Chalino went back to Los Angeles and made money washing cars and selling drugs. His boss for the drug selling business was a restaurant owner, Rigo Campos. A cartel found out what Rigos was dabbling in and captured him and tortured him, ripping his arms off in the process and leaving him to bleed to death. But Rigos survived and was able to get prosthetics, and he learned how to hold a gun and fire it, and Rigos set off back to Tijuana, and which was a terrible mistake because that's where the cartel was, and they ended up finding him and shooting him in his car. Chalino would then later on write a corrido about his former boss. And a corrido is like a narrative turned into a song, kind of. It was like a big genre in like the music industry. In 1983, he met Marisela Vallejos, an immigrant from Mexicali. A year later, they got married, and Marisela had a son, Adon. I don't know how to pronounce his name, I'm sorry. From a previous relationship, and Chalino and Marisela would have a baby girl named Cynthia. The same year, he wrote a corrido about his brother Armando, and word spread that he was making songs if they were requested, and people would give him money or anything of high value, such as watches and pistols. And Chalino found a local band and asked them to sing the songs, because he knew he didn't have like the best singing voice. So he was like, hey guys, sing these songs for me, I'll give you money. And they were like, alright. And so they went to their very small recording studio and they began recording the songs, but Chalino was like, nah, you guys aren't singing it right. And then they were like, we're singing it the way it's supposed to be sung, and Chalino was like, no, let me handle it. And so he went in there and he sang it the way that he thought it was meant to be sang. Over the months, Chalino would come into their studio and record batches upon batches of commissioned corridos, and like over this time he kind of like adopted the band, and he would like, it was basically like him and the band, not just like him getting help from the band, if that makes sense. Like he would be like the lead singer and then they would be like, or how instruments go, you know? So many people were requesting songs for their late friends or late partners or spouses, lovers, family members, anything you could really think of. And Chalino would sing these corridos in the way he thought they were meant to be sung, and they slowly began making tapes for these people, and more commissions came in for Chalino and his band to make these songs. And that kind of grew their popularity a bit, and he was starting to get very recognized by like bigger names in the music industry. Pedro Rivera saw the growing rate at which Chalino and his band were growing, and he offered them a deal that they could use his recording studio and stuff like that, and he would be able to like help them a lot more with their careers. And you know, this was like a big thing because his company was also along the lines of like CBS and Musart and other big like music companies. And Rivera's company helped Latin artists be brought to light, since this was around the time where they weren't really like being noticed, but they were like, some people were like, oh hey, you're pretty cool, and then they would like tell their friends and be like, hey, these guys are pretty cool. Chalino had gotten himself a small record which was enough for people to melt over, and Chalino's voice was famously known for being awful, or as like some critics would say. But Chalino came back and said, I don't sing, I bark, which like a lot of people took to heart, because like from like then on, Chalino would be like the voice for like the immigrants in Mexico and all around, as his songs spoke for them in ways no one else could really understand, besides in like the form of a song. Chalino's career was doing well. He even booked a small room in Coachella where he would take song requests, and a man by the name of Eduardo Gallegos, who was high on heroin and alcohol, would jump up on stage and shoot Chalino in his side multiple times with a .22 pistol. This resulted in a shootout between the two, and where multiple people were injured and others just desperately tried to escape. And Chalino was able to shoot Eduardo in the mouth, resulting in his death, and Chalino's bandmates hurried him to the hospital. After this event, Chalino became very paranoid. He sold all of his guns, and instead of asking for anything of high value to make his music. He just asked for straight up cash, and this is where people called this decision his greatest error. He sold all of his songs to Musart for no royalties, which gave him a very small amount of money, and while today his music is worth millions, many singers and songwriters began saying he lost a lot of money, and it was if he knew he was going to die anytime soon. Even his wife was worried for him. Chalino was set to play in Culiacan, and Chalino was telling everybody he felt uneasy about this performance and how he didn't want to go, but he had to since people were paying him money to go. Chalino began his set, and during his set someone handed him a piece of paper, and many people thought it was like a commission for a song or something like that, so they cheered him on to like sing it. But in reality it was a death threat saying if Chalino were to continue his set, like somebody was gonna go up there and kill him. And in this recording, because like this was like someone was recording like his set, and like in the recording you can see him, he was very like distraught, and he was like scared obviously because someone was like in there watching him like do his set, and like they were gonna kill him if he would have continued. And you know, he's very nervous, he's very sweaty, but he ends up continuing the show. After the show, Chalino got into a car with his brothers and a girl, and they all drove off when a car with flashing lights pulled them over. And at first they thought it was like a police officer, like maybe they were speeding or something like that. And so the so-called police officers were very aggressive towards everybody else in the car, like even the driver and the people in the back. Like they were like super aggressive, and they were like grabbing them out of the car, and Chalino was like pleading with them to like let them go, and like eventually it works, and like so they run off. And they said that their boss wanted to speak with Chalino, and it is unknown like what the interaction between the boss and Chalino was, or like what led up to what happened. But it ended up with Chalino's body being found on the side of the road, his wrists having tire marks on them, like right here, and like his hands were like crushed. And he was blindfolded, and he was shot in the back of the head twice. The years following his death, his voice was used for mariachi covers of his previous corridos, and over 150,000 corridos were written about Chalino in his memory, and there were many people who did covers of his songs and were impersonating him and dressing up as him and trying to sing in like the grungy type of like grounded voice he had. And his son would go on to sing all of his father's songs and became the first young headliner. And just 18 days before his 20th birthday, he was driving to a set he had, and his car lost control and he rammed into a tree, and he died later on in the hospital. I'm gonna finish this up and I'll be right back. Right, here are the finished products. I was able to make a little handful of blue granny squares. I still don't know if I'm close or not close to finishing the granny square blanket because I have not mapped it out. I'm still procrastinating on that, just as I procrastinated on this video, which I'm super sorry for. But yeah, I'm the best. But yeah, this story was absolutely crazy. And it was really sad the way that he passed away. And yeah, it was, you know, it was super sad, it was heartbreaking, all the above. And a lot of people still celebrate and listen to his music to this day. I've listened to a couple of his songs before, and I don't know why they were saying his voice was bad. His voice actually sounds really good. My personal opinion. But, yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I did. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Share with all the demons in your closet. Share with all your friends. And yeah, I hope to see you all next week. Bye!